Today we try something a little bit different. Yes, I'm going to use Moneyball, but I'm going to try and build the ultimate double libero team in a league that maybe has not seen this sort of football before. So we will be attacking Norwegian football with Lillestrøm. So the club find themselves in the second tier in Norwegian football, having been relegated last season. So we're going to try and restore them to the top league and get them a league title, which they have not won since 1989. So the day one squad is quite small, quite tight. I don't actually mind that. And there's not a bad transfer budget, but there is a massive twist when it comes to this save. And it is this: we must use the double libero tactic that I used right at the start of Football Manager 2024 that did indeed cause quite a stir. It's because it's so crazy in match, because when you get the ball, these two guys here are my centre backs, but watch what happens when we get the ball. They disregard their defensive roles and bomb forward and sit themselves into a bit of a defensive midfield position. That means we overload there, but we use our full-backs to become the centre-backs. In effect, this setup lets us get into somewhat of a 2-3-5 when we're attacking, which obviously means a lot of attacking threat. You can see the 5 across the front, 3 strikers and 2 Mazzalas. And the other thing you'll notice when this tactic gets going is it is very possession hungry. These boys do not give this ball away, preferring to pass it into the net. So now you know the save steps, we need to get into it. And the one thing that will remain the same throughout this journey is I must use 2 liberos. So obviously for this formation to work, the key positions will be these 2 liberos and getting the right players to fill those slots. Currently at the club we have a good bunch of centre-backs, but are they good enough on the ball? And this is where having attributes as well as data from the start will help us out a little bit. Centre-back Ruben Gabrielsen looks like a decent option. He's got good technique, good first touch, decent passing. But his partner initially, Sander Moen Force, looks like a more traditional centre-back. He doesn't really excel in terms of technique. His first touch is okay, so we'll see how he does. So with those 2 guys basically playing up here, it means these 2 then become centre-backs. So what I normally look for in full-backs won't really apply here. So the perfect player to play full-backs in this system would be a guy who's also comfortable playing at centre-back. Lars Ranger is nearly there. He's 6 foot, so that's going to help. So he's got heading attributes, positioning. He should be pretty decent. And on the other side, Christopher Tonnesson might be even better because he can play as a centre-back as well. So his attributes kind of marry what we're trying to do. So far it looks good. The Mazzala positions are so attacking that they spend most of their time, like we saw in the clip of the pitch, up here or even higher up. And there's some good options to play there, such as Gurmund here, who can play anywhere across the midfield or wide, so he looks like a perfect Mazzala. And higher up the pitch we've got a poacher who will be the main goal scoring threat, and the 2 false nines who will drop and effectively play like the wide players. I'm sure you've all found in FM that it's really hard to find good players that are natural false nines. So what you're looking for really is attacking midfielders who can do a little bit of a job at false nine, such as Eric Kitolano here. He's perfect. He actually wants to play like a false nine. And for that false nine position, I'm looking for a bit of flair, some passing, some vision. Because these will probably be the most creative players, but we could do with them getting some goal scoring numbers as well. So I guess the big question is, how will Norwegian football react to this kind of out there tactic? We started slow with a 0-0 draw away from home, but a key thing to point out was the possession. We already started to dominate. And then in our first home game, we really opened up and smashed in 5 in a big win. And then we really started to get going. Kitolano, the false nine, supplied the first goal here. And he was proven to be the key man as he bagged another. And one of the most impressive things so far was the sheer amount of clean sheets that we were doing. In fact, after 10 or so matches, goalkeeper Mads Hedenstand had kept 6 clean sheets already. And playing as a sweeper keeper on attack, his on-the-ball data was out of this world. And as for false nine Kitolano, his data is somewhere between advanced forward and striker, and so far so good. The first part of the season was pretty much perfect. We're undefeated, sat at the top of the league, but more impressive was the average possession of the team at a whopping 73%. Our undefeated record was taken away from us in a match where we had 79% of the ball, so that was a little bit frustrating. And after losing a couple of other matches, we got it back on track and finished the season really strong. And at the first time of asking, we've got ourselves back into the top flight, just like real life. And they did indeed manage to maintain that average possession over an entire season at 74%. That's one of the biggest I've ever had. A pretty stunning all-round performance, and it gives us a baseline on what to look for in terms of data going forward. So in the false nine spots, Kitolano, if we judge him somewhere between attacking midfield and striker, you can see that he does a lot of the work outside the box. It's the same with the other false nine, Marcus Karlsbach, not much of a goal threat at all, but more of a link man. And that's why it's important to have a goal scorer. We had Thomas Lenny Olsen, an experienced player who bagged 14 and 25. His goal ratio of 0.65 is pretty good. But believe it or not, he wasn't our top scorer. Our top scorer was back in the Mazzala position. German scored 18 goals and 14 assists. Quite stunning, really. And this is largely down to the setup. You can see there when we win the ball back, he surges into the box, in effect becoming another striker. So he's going to be on the end of all these chances that we're creating, and that's why he ended up with such amazing stats. And don't forget, he assisted a load of goals as well, as did his Mazzala partner Krygard. Now that allows the DLP just to knit things together, and that's what deep line playmaker Hoff did in terms of passes completed, not losing it, and a tackles won ratio, which we probably could do with increasing a little bit. But what about the all-important players, these two liberos and the fake fullbacks? First up, the liberos, and what's important to remember is we're not looking for the usual data. Normally I'd look for possession won, a little eye on headers won maybe, but this time, because they're effectively playing as defensive midfielders, I'm looking for progressive passes and even some expected assists. If we can get the tackles won up to 70%, that's handy, but it's mostly these two areas here because they've got to be on the ball a little bit more. And to my surprise, Sander Moen Foss also did that pretty well, with progressive passes right up there, and his dribbles were good, and he even excelled in assists. So if these two guys pushing up here, I know they're doing a good job. So how did the fake fullbacks do? So normally we judge fullbacks obviously on the fullback data, but because they're playing like centre backs, that's how I'm going to judge them. And as you can see here, they absolutely smashed it. In terms of possession won, tackles won, outstanding. So overall, they all did a great job. There was no weak link, so I'm going to give most of them a chance in the higher division. So that was pretty much the perfect first season. And that's really good because in real life, they have themselves got promoted back to the top division. So now we can replicate them, but with our unique twist of having two liberos. Now the other thing to remember is the time of year. It's the 24th of December in pre-season, because in Norwegian football, the season runs from April through till the end of November. So with that in mind, I started to look for players to improve the team still further. The only players I think we can really possibly improve is a striker and maybe another false nine. Like Olsen was good, but he's 34, so he's starting to age out. I do have a couple of players that will be joining the club shortly. The first is striker Alejandro Cabeza. He could be the one I'm looking for, with 20 goals this season in his league and a good goal ratio. And then when I look at his attributes, he looks like a decent player, specifically off the ball. He could be the out-and-out goal scorer I'm looking for. And at 250,000, it looks like a no-brainer. The other player is midfielder Nikola Stankovic, who can play pretty much anywhere and, if needed, can jump into that right-back slot. This season, playing as a defensive midfielder, he's won the ball back a load, good tackle win ratio, and some nice assists as well, so he looks like a good potential DLP. Even with those new signings lined up, I've still got a healthy transfer budget and, importantly, a healthy wage budget. So if I'm looking for players that are going to be out of contract, there's going to be some out of contract in July time. And by July in Norway, we'll have played half our matches, so it could be good to bring some in for a late season boost. And that's what I did, getting a few players lined up for that mid-season hit. So I'm happy with my liberos, but it's good to get some cover, and Zinedine Bala looks like a good one from Algeria. I mean, look at that for an all-round central defensive performance, but remember, he'll be playing for libero for us, so I need to really see how he's going to be on the ball as well. Which led me to Sanusi Bar, who can play either the inside fullback positions or, if I want to get a bit funky, as that libero. I think he could be the way to go because he's so good on the ball with them dribbles. And being two-footed as well, he could be a good libero. Higher up the pitch, there was two more players to come in. And this is what I was talking about the false nine. Sofian Balul ideally wants to play wide or an attacking midfielder, but he can also play up front as well. And if he matches that goal ratio for us, he'll be very handy. And that's why I'm more excited about Marcus Paulo, who can play any of the attacking midfield positions or up front. And he's looked really good for his team in Brazil. On the limited data I've got from him, I can judge that he's going to be pretty good in front of goal, bagging 13 goals in 26 matches. And free transfers for all those boys is an absolute no risk. So the long-term goal of this is to win this league once again. Our first season back at this level sees us kind of fancied in 6th position at 20-1. And the team for the start of the season is largely the same as last year, just waiting for those recruits to come in July to back us up. I won't lie, we had a pretty horrible time in pre-season. I was getting a bit worried. And in the first league game, it did take a 94th minute equaliser to get us back on track. But interestingly, we completely dominated the match with 70% possession as well. After this thumping 4-1 away win with 75% of the possession, I thought we were going to absolutely storm this league. But then came a home defeat by Brand despite dominating the ball again, a defeat to Rosenborg, and then we got absolutely battered by a team called Hamkam 5-0 despite having 71% of the possession. Now we have got it back with a couple of wins, but it's clear that we do need those reinforcements. Don't get me wrong, I'm more than happy with 4th place in our first season back at this level. And we are still the complete bosses in terms of possession with 68% and passes completed. But we do need that extra quality, and some players have found the jump up to be far too much. Including Mazala Gurman, who last season was absolutely outstanding. This season it's been so bad with no goals and 1 assist that he's decided to retire. He's just been way off, look at that, way off. The striker that I bought in, Kabizi, just hasn't got going and he's got himself injured. The liberos are doing okay, but they're losing a bit too much of the ball. But some of the team are still doing well, like Kisaleno up at false 9. Kriegard, the right side of Mazala's doing well. And both fullbacks come centre-backs are still fantastic. So there's not a lot wrong, just a few tweaks. And hopefully these 3 boys coming in can help solve that. And the good news was they did help things, especially Marcus Paulo as that new false 9. It's fair to say he likes to drop off as a false 9. You can see him there dropping all the way back. But when we get the ball back, he moves forward. And he has been the main goal scoring threat since he joined the club. And has been the perfect player with 7 in 15. The other big improvement has been at centre back. I put Bar as the libero. Remember, he's more of a full back, but I've moved him in field. And he's been outstanding with dribbles, progressive passes, but he's also added in tackles 1 percentage of 79% and pressures. And that helped us have a decent second half to the season. And we only missed out on 3rd position by goal difference. We also remain top of average possession and passes completed, but overall it's a good first season back in the top flight. And now I can go searching for players with a bit more of a better view on what I'm looking for. Marcus Paulo will be the benchmark for false 9s, so I'm looking for expected assists at 0.2 and goals at 0.4. For Mazala's, I'm looking for more of an all-round attacking performance, so I look for goals at 0.2, assists at 0.2, but I'm not too concerned with the defensive work because they are basically part of the front 5. And for my liberos, I want dribbles at 0.7, progressive passes at least 6, expected assists at 0.1 and tackles at 70%. So now I've got those baselines, I can start having a look and see if I can upgrade the players. The other option is of course any tactical tweaks, because it is hella attacking. Could I potentially make this role more defensive? Something to think about going into season 3. So solid stuff on our first season back in the top flight, and the good news is the tactic has shown that it can kind of work at this level. We just need to push on a bit now. As we go into season 3, it's important now to drill down on the main position in this tactic, those liberos. I'm happy with Sanusi Bar there for now, largely due to the fact that he's comfortable playing midfield. But the other libero is Foss, who is basically an out and out old school defender. Now although he's done well, I think there could be areas to improve. And that's why I've made this move for Aziz Ouattara. Now he's a player who's playing in the Israel leagues via Belgium, but he's basically a defensive midfielder who can play at defence a little bit, and he's perfect for libero. Now he's a ball winner who's also good on the ball, but he's played most of his time as a defensive midfielder, so I'm going to move him back here as my new chief libero. I'm not going crazy in the transfer market this season, just a few coming in, but I do think I found another false 9 in Ahmed Quassem. He's playing in the MLS, and looking at his positions, he'll be perfect for false 9 because he's largely an attacking midfielder who can just about do a job as a false 9. But playing as an attacking midfielder, he's already got a good goal ratio, so if I'm playing regular as a striker, he should progress quite nicely. So it was just those 3 that came in, but I did forget to say that I did bring in Steve Mouvet halfway through last season from a divisional rival in Start. He took a little while to settle, coming in at $500,000, so we'll see how he performs this season. But he's going to be a central midfielder option. So the season 3 team will look something like that. Kitalano, he's a bit of a victim of his own versatility because I'm going to try him as a poacher this season. And I did decide to sell Alejandro Cabaze. After a very brief stay, it's just clear he wasn't going to work. A good reminder that some Moneyball signings don't always hit it out of the park. As for the team this season, we started the season pretty solid, only a couple of defeats. But in the second half of the season, we did lose quite a few matches. There were some good individual performances, but something just wasn't quite right this season. And after we kind of stumbled over the line, we round out the season finishing 6th, dropping down from 4th place last season. So that's promotion, a 4th place and a 6th place so far in our 3 seasons, but the board were not happy. In fact, to my absolute amazement, they hauled me in for a meeting, threatening my job. I just about navigated the meeting and kept my job, but I'm going to have to change something. What's frustrating is their team performance was pretty good, they were just not getting the results they deserved. Marcus Paulo was again good with 13 goals, but only 6 in the league, but he's doing the job I want from a false 9. As did Ahmed Kassam in his first season with us. He provided 12 assists, and that's pretty good false 9 numbers. So the pressure was on Kitaleno to score the goals, but it was pretty clear he did not enjoy being a poacher at all. That's a massive drop in performance for him, and he only scored 9 times in the league. The good news was Steve Mouvier in central midfield looked good, as did the experiment of bringing in defensive midfielder Otara as the libero. But I'm definitely going to have to change something in the tactic because we just didn't score enough goals. In fact, we only scored 42 times this season. That's just not good enough. XG says we should have finished top 3, and if you look at the average possession of a massive 69%, we need to use the ball better and create some better chances. So out of nowhere, my job appears to be on the line, which puts me in a bit of a weird spot because I'm happy with the team. So unlike Ruben at Man United, I'm going to have to swallow my pride and tweak the tactic just a little bit. So onto the tactics shortly, but overall with my squad I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm kind of proud that I'm not turning over players by the dozen. I do have a few players on the way in though to help that goal scoring issue. The first is August Mikkelsen, who has not been a regular starter for Bordeaux. They even sent him on loan to Australia, but he can fill a variety of positions and roles for me. I see him more as a backup false 9, and doing that role he should be pretty good. The big area of the pitch I wanted to focus on was the striker role, and you'll notice I've changed it to advanced forward for this season. I wanted a player that I knew would score goals at this domestic level, so I went to the top scorer list and had a little look around. There looked to be some good players with decent potential. SGOLD was an option with 18 in 29, and when I looked at his data, his goal ratio was pretty damn good. But I went for a player who was somewhat undervalued. Mohamed Sanko was available for just 700,000. Hadn't really got going in his career, a lot of time spent in Stuttgart's second team before getting his move to Norway this season, and he managed to score 14 times in 25 matches. Not only does he give me the goals I'm looking for, but he offers other things as well, such as headers won, winning the ball back, dribbles. Looks like a good all-round hard-working striker. So speaking of the tactic for season 4, there has been some tweaks. You can see the shape is still the same as last season. I've just flipped the roles around a little bit. The first big change was in the DL position. Hoff has been a DLP, but I've got him as a register because I want him to move a little bit further forward because the 2 liberos occupy that slot. So why have 3? Let's move him forward. The other big change is up front. Not only is an advanced forward in now instead of a poacher, but my 2 false 9s, both of them, have stay wider on. So they spend a lot of the time in these areas. So I'm changing one of the Mazzalas to a central midfielder on attack. So he's going to stay more central areas to provide backup to the striker. I've added Be More Expressive to creative freedom, but everything else is the same in terms of instructions. I've also moved a few players around. I've put Kit Aleno back to Mazzala, I think he's more natural there. And I've moved back to full-back position, giving a permanent start to Ballet. Season preview has us down in 6th, and as you can see from the Media Dream 11, it's completely dominated by Bordeaux and Mulder. And I need a good start because after last season's meeting that I was hauled into, they're looking to sack me if I don't get going from the off. So it wasn't ideal when we lost our first match of the season, despite dominating even more so than ever with 75% of the possession. But slowly we started getting into it, and the new striker Sanko started off like a house on fire with a hat-trick in his first home match. And it was clear this slightly new setup was giving a bit more flexibility to the team. Hoff as the register was pushing further forward, we still had the front 5, and we still had those 2 fullbacks jumping in to the central defensive spot so my 2 liberos can push on. So we started the season really well, sitting in 2nd position, and most importantly we were smashing in the goals, going at over 3 per match. With 9 goals in 9 matches, you could say that's a pretty decent start for new signing Mohamed Sanko. By the time the season finished, you could see by the board feedback that I'd managed to turn things around pretty well. A much better season, more consistent, and most importantly getting loads more goals, led to us finishing in our best position yet, 2nd in the table and qualifying for Europe. Yet again, massive in terms of possession at 70%. We dominated passes completed and chances created. We were getting up the charts on that as well. And we were justified with the signing of Sanko because he finished top scorer in the league with 20. He actually only played 24 matches because of injury, but he bagged 20 goals. And if you look at his data, that's exactly what I was looking for from my striker. So the tweaks to the tactic definitely worked for the better. Steven Vu, I'm going to keep calling him different names till I get his name pronunciation right, ended the season with 13 assists, 6 goals, perfect. He was in that central midfield attack spot, so I'm going to keep that one going. And Kitalino back in his favoured position with 10 goals this season, much better. At the back, Otara has really settled into the libero role, and this is probably the best use of Sanusi Bah. Now he's playing as that left back, fake centre back, he's putting in some big numbers. So that was our best season yet, and to get closer to that title is a big thing. To improve the squad a tiny bit more might just get us over that line. And that's what we're going to do. It's going to be really hard though to improve this squad, because if you look at the awards from last season, we did a clean sweep, top 3 players. Having said that, we will have extra games this season because of European competition, so I have bulked the squad out with some capable squad players. I've signed the best goalkeeper from the division below us in Jasper Torgildsen. Attacking midfielder Sondre Okerlund from our rivals Bodo Glimt. And I've taken a bit of a risk on explosive looking striker Pape Samba Traore, who scored 9 in 14, 0.62 goals per game, gets loads of shots away. Look, he's playing in Senegal, so he's a bit of an unknown quantity. But when you've got raw acceleration and pace like that, I think he's worth a risk as backup. But the big news is, I think I've found my new libero to go alongside Otara. This is Ayumu Ohata from Japan. Now, this season he's largely played as a defensive fullback, with occasionally playing as a centre-back. I think he's going to do the job, but it gets a bit more interesting when you look a bit deeper into him. Scout report, full of pros. They absolutely love him. He can play anywhere down the left, but also in that central defensive spot. But what makes him a bit different is, he's only 5'6", but if we look at his attribute levels, balance of 17, technique of 14, first touch of 14, he is an absolute ball player. Should be perfect for that advanced centre-back role. And he's settled into it straight away. There you can see him circled, playing as that libero. As soon as we get the ball, he storms forward. The excellent false 9 Marcus Paulo is about to find him, and watch this finish. That was part of a big win away at Strom's Godset. We were continuing to dominate possession and passes, but also throwing in shots for as well. The good times were rolling, but there was disappointment in the Conference League as Besiktas turned it around against us in the second leg to knock us out 3-4. However, in the big games where it mattered, we were coming up trumps, and the liberos were both a massive part of it. Whether we ranked them as centre-backs or defensive midfielder to analyse their data, they're doing great on both aspects. With Ohata arguably being the stronger of the two, even winning 71% of headers despite being only 5'6". And they also supplied some decent assists as well, getting into the central midfield area, there they are, and on this occasion supplying a false 9 to grab us another winner. With not long left, this could be the season. It's super tight up there with 4 teams locked within 5 points of each other. But importantly, with 5 games to go, we've got 3 of those teams coming up. We absolutely bulldozed Strom Godset yet again, 4-1 with 78% possession. Insane. However, things got complicated as we lost the next match to Bodo. It was soon time for yet another vital match against Vålerenga. In a tight affair, in injury time, it looked like being a draw, which would have left us second, but Day one of Krygard put it in, giving us a vital 1-0 win, which meant if we won our next match, we would finally be champions of Norway once again. So we've done it, we've won our first league title since 1989, and as a sub note, if you're looking for a save for FM26, how about trying to get past Rosenberg's 26 league titles? That might take you a while. So it was a bit of a slow burn, this mission, first place in our first season in the league below, and then a bit of a mid-table hovering before really coming up trumps the last couple of seasons. This was the 2 tactics that got us there. Nothing wrong with the first tactic, that is still carnage, but we just looked for a bit more attacking thrust in tactic 2. Most important positions, probably the 2 false 9s who act as fake wingers because they spend a lot of their time out there, which is why their assist rate is so high. If you look at Ahmed Kassem, for example, 10 goals, 12 assists. And you can see, he doesn't prioritise goals as much, but the other aspects of the game, progressive passes, dribbles, expected assist, total creator. Similar story for the excellent Marcus Paulo. He's even better as an all-round creative player. Of course, you need a striker to finish off the chances, and that's why the signing of Sanko was so important. But let's not forget what this save was all about. Those 2 liberos acting as our new fake defensive midfielders.